안녕하십니까. This is lesson 8 part 1. Let's learn how to use formal honorifics in Korean before we go into the main lesson. Let's go! Let's learn about the formal honorifics in Korean. You've been using casual honorifics which end in yo sound so far because it is much more useful than formal honorifics when you make a conversation with anyone in real life. Then let's find out where and when these formal honorifics are used. Actually, you can use the formal honorifics in a conversation too, especially when you think the relationship between you and the audience or the situation is somewhat formal. For example, when you talk to the president of the company that you work for, the principal of the school that you study in, or even to the future father-in-law. The situation can be varied. We can't explain exactly which situation you should use these formal honorifics. For example, if you don't want, you don't have to use the formal honorifics to anyone mentioned earlier. Not even to the president of Korea. It's your choice, but you normally use it when the situation is formal or official. You can mix the casual honorifics and formal honorifics when you talk to someone actually, but it's not something we can teach. You should make your own mixture. It's your call, depends on the situation and the person you are talking to. You normally use the casual honorifics to sound a little bit warmer and more friendly, and use the formal honorifics to sound a little bit more polite and formal. But the difference of the politeness between two honorifics is not very big. It depends more on the situation. You normally use the formal honorifics in a presentation or a speech. And in the military, you don't really use the casual honorifics in the military. Soldiers use only formal honorifics at least when they are in the campsite, as far as I know. So you might be able to get a hint about what nuance the formal honorifics provide from this. People use the formal honorifics in a company and school report too, because they had to look more formal and official. In many times, people use the formal honorifics when they want to sound funny. It's like you are saying, yes sir, to someone when it is not quite necessary. Okay? Now you understand a little bit more about the usage of the Korean formal honorifics? Okay, very good. Then let's learn how to use it. It's very easy because you already understand the concept of the base form of verbs and adjectives. Let's learn the ending that you use in the present tense first then. When it's a declarative sentence, you add final b consonant or s sound and nida to the stem. You know you add the final b consonant when the last letter of the stem doesn't have a final consonant, right? You should know that much by now. When it's an interrogative sentence, you add the same final b consonant or s sound and nika to the stem. Okay? I know it's too easy for you. Then let's see how it works with the real words. Let's make a declarative form first. The base form of the verb go is 가다. In Korean, the stem is 가. Since the stem doesn't have a final consonant, you add a final b consonant and 니다 to the stem. So it becomes 갑니다. But the first letter is not pronounced 갑 because of the n consonant in the next block. You learned about this not long ago. We called it nasalization. When there is n or m consonant in the initial of the next block, the final k, t, b consonant in the formal block turn into n, m sound, the same nasal sound, and there is no exception for this rule in Korean. So we told you that it is no harm for you to remember this rule. So the final b consonant in the formal block, 갑, turns into the nasal sound, m consonant, because of the n consonant in the initial of the next block. So 갑니다 becomes 갑니다, 갑니다. 갑니다 is the correct sound. Then let's make an interrogative form. You can do it on your own, right? The stem 가 plus b consonant and 니까. 갑니까? 갑니까? It's a question. Yes, it is also pronounced 갑니까, not 갑니까. Okay? Let's take a look at the next example. To eat. The base form of the verb eat is 먹다 in Korean, and the stem is 먹. The stem has a final consonant gu this time. Therefore, you should add 습 sound first and 니다. 먹습니다. 먹습니다. It's pronounced 먹습니다 with a double consonant s sound because the final 그 consonant in the stem affects the initial s sound in the next block, right? 먹습니다. And the interrogative form is going to be 먹습니까? 먹습니까? Okay? It's too easy. All you have to do is to practice making your own sentences with this. Then let's learn how to make formal honorifics in the past tense and the future tense. Let's learn the past tense form first. We add a past tense indicator, at, ot, or het to the stem and add 씁니다 at the end. It's very easy, isn't it? You, of course, don't use the final b consonant because all the past tense indicators have final consonants. So you always use 습 sound. It's so obvious, right? And needless to say, you use 가 sound at the end in interrogative sentences. Let's see the examples. 가다. The stem is 가, and it has yang vowel 아. Therefore, you should add a past tense indicator at with the same 아 vowel, right? And add 씁니다 at the end. 가앗습니다. But as you know, when the last letter of a stem doesn't have a final consonant, it tends to combine with the ending a, o, or at, ot sound. And because of the fact that the stem 가 and the past tense indicator at have the same a vowel, you should get rid of one of them to prevent sound redundancy. So it's not 가앗습니다, 갔습니다, 갔습니다, 갔습니다. It's like you directly add a final double s consonant to the stem when the last letter of the stem doesn't have a final consonant. So 같습니다, 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 같습니다 is the correct sound. 먹다. The stem is 먹, and it has one of the in vowels, 어. Whatever it is, it's not a or o vowel. Therefore, you should add a past tense indicator, ot sound with the same in vowel, 어, and 씁니다. 먹었습니다. 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 하다. The stem is 하. This one is a little bit tricky. Please listen carefully. You already learned about this before though. The stem 하 has a yang vowel, 아. Therefore, you might want to add a past tense indicator, at sound with the same yang vowel, 아. But this verb 하다 conjugates irregularly when it meets the ending 아, 어, or at, ot. Do you remember? That's why you use 해요 instead of 하아요 or 하요. So when the stem 하 from the verb 하다 gets to meet the ending 아, 어, or at, ot, all of a sudden, the e vowel appears out of nowhere and is added to the ending. It doesn't really matter, but the additional e vowel is added to the ending, not the stem. So because of the additional e vowel, the past tense indicator ot sound is added instead of at sound. Are you okay with this? Then let's combine e and ot sound together. We told you this e vowel is added to the past tense indicator ending ot sound, right? 이엇, 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 이엇. It becomes yot sound with 여 vowel. So the formal honorifics of the verb 하다 in the past tense becomes 하였습니다. 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 But as you know, this 하여 part can be shortened to 해 sound. Why? There's no reason. Just Korean people normally use this 해 sound instead of 하여 sound. That's why you've been using 해요 rather than 하여요 so far. But that doesn't mean 하여 sound is wrong. Just people like to make the word shorter when they actually speak. That's it. That's why we use 해 sound instead of 하여 sound. So you can use 해 sound and add double consonant 스, which will put the stem in the past tense, and add 씁니다. 했습니다. 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 Okay? We're gonna repeat one more time. Please listen carefully. The stem of the verb 하다 is 하. We've been using 해요 instead of adding 아요 or 어요 to the stem 하. That's because 이 vowel is added to the ending when the stem 하 meets the ending 아, 어, or at, ot. And because of this additional 이 vowel, 어 or ot sound is added instead of or at sound. Got it? And the e vowel sound and o or ot sound combine together and make 여 or 엿 sound. So 하여요 and 하였어요 are also correct. But we used 해요 and 했어요 instead because 하여 can be shortened to 해 sound. No official rule is applied to the transition of 하여 to 해 sound. So please do not try to find a logical way to change the 하여 sound to 해 sound. Okay, let's move on. We spent too much time on this, which is totally not over-explained. Then let's learn how to make the formal honorifics in the future tense. There must be a stem. Yes, of course. With the ending 요, we used final 르 consonant or 을 sound plus 거예요 for the future tense, right? The final 르 consonant or 을 sound is the part which actually indicates possibility, expectation, or something undecided. So this is the part which puts the stem into the future tense. And 거 sound is actually from the dependent noun 것. You can say that 거 is simplified form or colloquial form of 것. 예요 or 이에요 is from the base form 이다, right? The stem of the predicate 이다 is, of course, 이, right? Now you add the ending to turn the entire predicate into the formal honorifics. As we told you earlier, you already put the stem into the future tense with the final 르 consonant or 을 sound. Therefore, you just need to put the last predicate 이다 into the formal honorifics. So just add the final 부 consonant and 니다 to the stem 이. 입니다. 입니다. So final 르 consonant or 을 sound and 것입니다. 것입니다. 을 것입니다. 을 것입니다. Okay? But when native Koreans actually speak, they add final 부 consonant and 니다 straight to the dependent noun 거 and say 겁니다. 겁니다. Instead of 것입니다. Final 르 consonant or 을 sound and 겁니다. 을 겁니다. 을 겁니다. Of course, 거 is not a stem. It's a dependent noun. It's not actually the final 부 consonant is added straight to the dependent noun 거. 예요 is from the predicate 이다. It was originally final 르 consonant or 을 sound plus 거 plus stem E plus final B consonant and 니다. 거입니다. 거입니다. Yes, it was originally 거입니다. 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 Became 겁니다. It's shortened one more time. So if it's too complicated, you can just remember that you can add final B consonant to the dependent noun 거 and make 겁니다. 겁니다. So you need to remember 을 것입니다 and 을 겁니다. These two, okay? And the shorter one, 을 겁니다, is used in a conversation normally. Let's see an example. Let's use the verb 하다 again. The stem is 하. If you want to make a formal honorific form in the future tense, you add final 르 consonant to the stem and 것입니다. 할 것입니다. 할 것입니다. Or 할 겁니다. 할 겁니다, which sounds more colloquial. Let's make actual sentences then. It's not that difficult to use formal honorifics in Korean because you just need to add 니다 or 니까 at the end instead of 어요 or 아요. But there's one problem which makes us crazy all the time. The irregular conjugations. But don't worry. Let's take a look at this simple sentence first. I live in Seoul. I, in Seoul, live. I, 저. Let's use the auxiliary particle 는, 저는. In Seoul, 서울 is the capital city of Korea, as you know. The correct pronunciation is 서울, 서울. Let's add a particle 에서, which is used to indicate the place where the action actually takes place. To live is a verb, and you can say that it's an action. You can also use the place-related particle 에 with the verb live. In Korean, you can use the particle 에 with the predicates which indicate your being, and the verb live is one of them. So 서울에서 or 서울에 live. The base form of the verb live in Korean is 살다. 살다. 살 is the stem. When you want to use casual honorifics, you add 아요 and make 살아요. 살아요, right? 저는 서울에서 살아요. Or 저는 서울에 살아요. Then let's put the stem in the formal honorific form. The stem is 살. Since it has a final consonant, you might want to add 습 sound first and 니다 at the end. However, when the final 르 consonant meets the initial 느, 르, or 브 consonant, or 오 sound, or 시 sound, the final 르 consonant disappears. Yes, it's one of the irregular conjugations which makes us bang our head against the wall. Even some might call it a regular omission rather than irregular conjugation because there's no exception. Whatever, we don't actually care what it's called. Anyhow, under this certain condition, the final 르 consonant disappears. There's one more strange thing here. The original stem is 살 with the final 르 consonant. Therefore, it is natural for you to think that 습 sound is added first before 니다. But unfortunately, it is not. When the last letter of the stem has final 르 consonant, strangely the final 브 consonant and 니다 is added. And it is actually a part of the rule. So you can say that when the last letter of the stem has a final 르 consonant, the final 브 consonant and 니다 is added in the first place, and 씁니다 rule is not applied. So because of this 느 consonant of 니 sound, the final 르 consonant of 살 sound disappears. and it becomes 사. So 사 plus final B consonant and 니다 becomes 삽니다. And it's actually pronounced 삽니다. 삽니다. With M consonant as a final because of the N consonant in the next block. 삽니다. 삽니다. Nasalization, okay? 저는 서울에서 삽니다. Or 저는 서울에 삽니다. I live in Seoul. Please do not be overwhelmed by these irregular conjugation rules and pronunciation rules, because there are still plenty of them. We cannot teach you all of them and you will never be able to remember all of them. For now, just casually take a look at them one by one and try to naturally remember them while you are making actual sentences in real life. If you can't, no problem. But we strongly believe that you will learn them one by one eventually, while you're talking or studying. By the way, you don't say 제가 서울에서 삽니다 with the subject particle 가 when you want to say I live in Seoul, because it will mean it is me who lives in Seoul with the subject particle 가. You can take out the auxiliary or subject particle in spoken Korean. So 저 서울에서 삽니다 is totally okay when you actually speak. Or as we told you, 저 서울에 삽니다 is okay too. We told you that the formal honorifics sound slightly more polite than the casual honorifics, but the difference is not that big. It depends more on the situation. For example, I don't think 저는 서울에서 살아요 sound less polite than 저는 서울에서 삽니다. Even formal honorifics could sound less polite sometimes because it sounds too formal, depends on the situation. It's hard to explain. Let's learn it by doing. Just remember that formal honorifics can make the sentence sound formal and polite. That's true, but it can make the sentence sound even stiff or unfriendly sometimes, depends on the situation, okay? Let's see one more example on this page. I can speak Korean. I, Korean, speak can. I, 저는, Korean, 한국어 or 한국말. Let's use 한국어 this time. You can add the object particle 를 because Korean is the object of the verb speak. 한국어를 speak can. The base form of the verb speak is 말하다 in Korean. But as you know, when you use it with the object which indicates a type of verbal expressions such as language or story, you use only 하다 part, right? So if you use the casual honorific 요, it will be 할 수 있어요. 저는 한국어를 할 수 있어요. I can speak Korean. Let's put it in the formal honorifics. Where do you want to add the ending 니다? Yes, always use it at the end as you do with the ending 요. Therefore, you don't add 니다 to the main verb. You add it to the 있어요 part. What is the stem of 있어요? Yes, it sound is the stem. Since it has final consonants, you should add 습 sound first and add 니다. 있습니다. 있습니다. 저는 한국어를 할 수 있습니다. 저는 한국어를 할 수 있습니다. Okay? Perfect. There is another assistant verb that you can use to mean can. What was that? Yes, 줄 알아요, which actually means to know how to do something. 할 줄 알아요. As you know, 알아요 means to know, and the stem is 알. Hold on for a moment. This stem has final 르 consonant. Therefore, you don't add 습 sound when you add the ending 니다, because final 르 consonant will disappear because of the 느 consonant of the ending 니다. So 알 becomes 아, and add final b consonant and 니다. 압니다. 압니다. 할 줄 압니다. 저는 한국어를 할 줄 압니다. 저는 한국어를 할 줄 압니다. Of course, 압니다 is actually pronounced 압니다 with the final M consonant because of the N consonant in the next block. This nasal sound, N consonant, affects the final consonant of the formal block quite often, isn't it? Remember that. Let's make a question sentence in formal honorifics. You're not going to use complicated sentences because you just need to know how to use formal honorifics, and then you can use it anywhere you want. Nothing is difficult, okay? Let's take a look at the English sentence first. Can you speak Korean? You, Korean, speak can. You don't use auxiliary verb like can in Korean, right? You just need to add an assistant verb to the main verb. And as you know, you don't have to translate the pronoun you in Korean honorific sentences if you don't know how to address the listener properly. Korean, 한국말, or 한국어. Let's use 한국말 this time. This is an object. Therefore, you can add the object particle 을. 한국말을, 한국말을, 한국말을. Speak can. The base form of the verb speak is 말하다 in Korean, but you use only 하다 part when you use it with the objects such as language, story, and etc. so that you can avoid the redundancy of the meaning because 말 means a language or a speech too. So the stem of the main verb is 하. Let's add the assistant verb which indicates your ability and the ending which puts it in the formal honorifics. First, let's add a final L consonant which indicates undecided reality. If you want to use casual honorific ending 요, you add 수 있어요. No matter whether it's a declarative or interrogative sentence, right? But you want to use the formal honorifics. Therefore, you don't add 어요 at the end. You add 니까 at the end. The stem it sound has final double consonants. Therefore, you should add 습 sound first before 니까. Okay? Again, the stem 하 and final L consonant and 수, it and 습니까. 할 수 있습니까? And question mark. It's a question. 할 수 있습니까? 한국말을 할 수 있습니까? It's nothing, isn't it? We told you that the formal honorifics can sound a little bit unfriendly, right? This sentence, 한국말을 할 수 있습니까? It's a good example. If you ask someone, 한국말을 할 수 있습니까? Using formal honorifics, it could sound a little bit unfriendly because of the formalness that the honorific 니까 provides. It sounds like a question in an formal immigration paper. There's one way to make it sound a little bit friendly though. It's a higher respect form. If you put the predicative part into the higher respect form, it would sound a little bit more friendly because of the politeness the higher respect forms provide. Let's make a higher respect form then. 한국말을 part is the same. We have two predicates in the predicative part. One is the main verb 하다, and the other one is the part of the assistant verb 있다, right? You can turn both of them into the higher respect forms. The higher respect form of the verb 하다 is 하시다. You simply add 시 sound to the original stem 하, and the stem has become 하시 now. And the higher respect form of the predicate 있다 is 있으시다. 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 You put additional sound before 시 sound because the stem it has final consonants, right? So the stem has become 있으시. 있으시. So 하시 plus final L consonant and 수 있으시. And what? Yes, the final B consonant and 니까. You add final B consonant this time because the last letter 시 sound right before 니까 doesn't have a final consonant, right? So 하실 수 있으십니까? 하실 수 있으십니까? and question mark. 한국말을 하실 수 있으십니까? 한국말을 하실 수 있으십니까? Yes, it sounds a little bit more friendly because of the politeness of the higher respect forms. Got it? Then let's use the other assistant verb which can be used for the auxiliary verb can. 줄 알다. 줄 알아요. Which actually means to know how to do something. You don't need the ending 아요, of course. The stem 하 and final 르 consonant and 줄 알 plus what? Yes, exactly. You don't use 습 sound when there is 르 consonant used as a final in the last letter of the stem. So you get rid of the final 르 consonant and add 브 consonant and 니까. 할 줄 압니까? 할 줄 압니까? 할 줄 압니까? 한국말을 할 줄 압니까? 한국말을 할 줄 압니까? Perfect, but it also sounds a little bit unfriendly because of the formalness it has. It doesn't sound impolite, but it could sound a little bit fighty or aggressive, even though it's in the honorifics. It could be. It depends on how you talk. Let's make it sound a little bit more friendly with our higher respect forms. 하다 part is the same. 하시. How about the assistant verb part 알다? The stem is 알. And you might want to add 으시 sound, turn it into the higher respect form. But no, you don't add sound. Because adding 시 sound is basic rule. Sound is something added because of the final consonant in the previous block. You know what it means? In order to make a higher respect form of the predicate, you basically add 시 sound. That's the basic grammar. But sound has to be added to make it sound smoother. So you add 시 sound to the stem 알 first. It's exactly the same reason why you didn't add 습 sound to the stem which has 르 consonant as a final. Because adding 브 consonant and 니다 is the basic rule. You add 브 consonant and 니다 first. But when the last letter of the stem has a final consonant, 습 sound is added in the middle to sound more natural and smoother. Except the case when the last letter of the stem has final 르 consonant. Now understand better? So as you learned earlier, because of this 시 sound, you should get rid of the final 르 consonant from the stem 알 and make 아 sound and add 시 sound. So the higher respect form of the verb 알다 is 아시다, not 알으시다. Got it? And the stem is 아시 and add final 브 consonant and 니까 to put it in the formal honorifics. So 하시 plus final 르 consonant and 줄 아시 and final 브 consonant and 니까. 하실 줄 아십니까? 하실 줄 아십니까? 하실 줄 아십니까? 한국말을 하실 줄 아십니까? Yes, it does sound a little bit more friendly and mellow. We recommend you use higher respect forms with the formal honorifics when you make an actual conversation with someone or make a speech. It might sound better. Good strategy, isn't it? And in spoken Korean, you can take out the object particle 을. 한국말 하실 수 있으십니까? Or 한국말 하실 줄 아십니까? We'll tell you the difference between the general sentences and colloquial forms or spoken Korean in our materials. The colloquial forms are the ones you can use only in a real-life conversation. And the general sentences we always teach first are the ones you can use as the answer for the written test. Of course, you can use the general forms in a conversation too, no problem. Just they can also be the answers to the questions in the test. That's it. Because many Korean learners have difficulties in distinguishing spoken Korean and Korean for tests, We understand. Normally, the sentences we teach without colloquial tag are the ones you can use for the paper exams. Okay? Very good. Let's make formal honorific sentences in the past tense. Let's take a look at this Korean sentence first. 어느 나라에서 왔어요? What does it mean? You should be able to understand a simple sentence like this by now. 어느, which, 나라, country, 에서, from, 왔어요, came. It means, which country did you come from, right? And we told you that Korean people normally use a little bit different questions to ask where are you from or where do you come from. And this is one of them. The other one is like, which country's person are you? If we roughly translate it, remember? Then you must know why we use the past tense here. As you know, in Korean, we are talking about the actual moment when you left your country in the past, because now you're here. If you use a higher respect form of the predicate, the sentence is going to be 어느 나라에서 오셨어요? Right? Let's answer this question with the formal honorifics. I came from Singapore. I, from Singapore, came. I, 저는, from Singapore. Singapore is just Singapore in Korean. Singapore. It borrowed its sound directly from English. It's very different from the word 미국, which means America or the United States of America, or 영국, which means the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Let's add a particle which can substitute the English preposition from. It's 에서. Yes, this particle 에서 is also used for the place where the action actually takes place. And it can also be used for the origin or starting point of something. So it can substitute the preposition from in this case. 싱가포르에서. 싱가포르에서. You can pronounce it Singapore with the double S consonant as it is in English, no problem. Singapore or Singapore came. Let's make formal honorifics in the past tense. The base form of the verb come is 오다 in Korean, and 오 is the stem. It has yang vowel 오. Therefore, you can add a past tense indicator at, which has the same yang vowel 아, right? And then add 씁니다 at the end. 오았습니다. But since the stem O sound doesn't have a final consonant, it has to combine with the past tense indicator at sound, right? So it becomes 왔습니다. 왔습니다. It's too easy, isn't it? Some learners sometimes ask us whether 오았습니다 is correct or not. It is not correct. Sometimes it is allowed not to combine the stem which doesn't have a final consonant with the a, or at sound, but those are exceptions. 저는 싱가포르에서 왔습니다. 저는 싱가포르에서 왔습니다. In spoken Korean, you can take out the subject 저는 and just say 싱가포르에서 왔습니다. 싱가포르에서 왔습니다. Because the listener asked you, where do you come from? He or she knows you are talking about yourself. What we'd like to tell you from this example is, even though the other party didn't use the formal honorifics to you, you can answer with the formal honorifics. No problem. It's not something you take and give. So the question was, 어느 나라에서 왔어요? Or 어느 나라에서 오셨어요? With a casual honorifics ending 요. But you can answer with the formal honorifics 니다. 저는 싱가포르에서 왔습니다. It's your choice. Let's move on to the next example. I cut my hair yesterday. In English, you say I had my hair cut because you don't cut your hair yourself. But in Korean, you say I cut my hair. It's not because you cut your hair yourself, but because you let someone cut your hair, and that's your will. Let's rearrange the words. I, yesterday, my hair, cut. I, 저는, yesterday, 어제, my hair. Hair here means the hair on your head. You can use the noun 머리 to mean the hair on your head. 머리 originally means a head, but you can use it to mean hair on your head. Let's add an object particle, 를. 머리를. 머리를. You don't have to use the possessive my here in Korean because the listener already knows that you are talking about your hair. It's understood. cut. It's in the past tense. The base form of the verb cut is 자르다. 자르다 in Korean. The stem is 자르. This stem conjugates irregularly when it meets the ending a, o, or at, ot sound. You remember? Final 르 consonant is added to the first letter 자 and becomes 잘 sound, and the vowel 으 disappears from the last letter of the stem 르. And because of the fact that the last vowel now is the yang vowel a from 잘 sound, at sound is added with the same yang vowel a and add 씁니다 at the end. 잘 and the remained initial 르 consonant is combined with at sound and become lat sound, lat, and 씁니다. 잘랐습니다. 잘랐습니다. You know it's pronounced 잘랐습니다, right? 저는 어제 머리를 잘랐습니다. 저는 어제 머리를 잘랐습니다. In spoken Korean, you can take out the auxiliary particle 는 and the object particle 를 and just say 저 어제 머리 잘랐습니다. Or you can take out the entire subject and just say 어제 머리 잘랐습니다. 어제 머리 잘랐습니다. Let's think about this kind of situation. You are working for a company in Korea. You had your hair cut yesterday and you're having a meeting with colleagues in the morning. One senior colleague tells you you look different today. Then you can say 어제 머리 잘랐습니다. 어제 머리 잘랐습니다. You don't have to mention the subject I because the senior colleague asked about you and he or she already knows that you are talking about your hair. Okay? Let's take a look at the next example. I asked a man his age. If it's English, I would phrase I asked him his age. But in Korean, you don't really use the pronoun him or her in a conversation. So we used that man instead. You know all this. Let's rearrange the words. I, that man, his age, asked. I, 저는, that man. You can use 그 sound to indicate something or someone which is not in your sight right now, but you and the listener both know who he is or she is, right? So you can use 그 sound for the English demonstrative pronoun that, or the definite article the in Korean. Man is 남자. That man, 그 남자. This is the indirect object. What particle did you use for the indirect object? Do you remember? Yes, 에게 or 한테. Let's use 에게 this time, but 한테 is more frequently used in a real-life conversation in my opinion. 그 남자에게, 그 남자에게, 그 남자에게, his age. You don't have to mention the possessive his. If you think the sentence already provides enough information that you are talking about his age, not someone else's. The indirect object is that man. So if you didn't ask him someone else's age, you can omit the possessive his. Of course, you can mention it one more time if you want, like 그 남자의, 그 남자의, which means that man, apostrophe s. Age is 나이, 나이 in Korean. It's a direct object. Therefore, you can add the object particle 를, 나이를, 나이를, asked. The base form of the verb ask is 묻다 in Korean. The stem is 묻 with a final 드 consonant. When the stem with the final 드 consonant in the last letter meets a, or at sound, it conjugates irregularly. Yes, we use the irregular verbs on this page on purpose to let you get familiar with them. When the stem with the final d consonant in the last letter meets the ending a, or at sound, the final d consonant turns into l consonant. So mut sound becomes 물 sound, and sound is added because the stem has 우 vowel, and add 씁니다. 물었습니다. 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 Okay? 저는 그 남자에게 나이를 물었습니다. 저는 그 남자에게 나이를 물었습니다. In spoken Korean, you can omit the subject 저 and the particle 는, but I would not omit the particle 에게 and 를 because they indicate the exact role of each word in the sentence. I would come back to Korea next year. Let's take a look at this sentence. We use the English auxiliary verb would, but it's talking about the possibility that might happen next year, right? Now you know which assistant verb you should use for this sentence, don't you? Let's use 것 같다 first, which means you expect something before the dependent noun 것 to happen. Let's rearrange the words. I, next year, to Korea, come back would. I, 저는, next year. There is one word noun which means next year in Korean, as you know. It is 내년. 내년. 내 means something coming next. And 년 means a year. 내년. It's not a verb, it's a noun. Therefore, you can add the time-related particle 에. 내년에. 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 To Korea. Korea is 한국. 한국. It's a destination. Therefore, you can add the same particle 에 one more time. 한국에. 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 Come back would. You're going to use the assistant verb, which roughly means you expect yourself to come back next year, or you expect that you would come back next year. Final l consonant, or 을 sound, plus 것 같다, or 것 같아요. The base form of the phrasal verb come back is 돌아오다, 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 돌아오다 in Korean. The stem is 돌아오, 돌아오. The last letter of the stem doesn't have a final consonant. Therefore, you should add final l consonant first to indicate that it is something undecided. And 것 같다 or 것 같아요 to mean you expect this thing. But you're going to add the formal honorific ending. Therefore, you just need the stem of the assistant verb 같다, which is 갓, and add 씁니다 at the end, because 갓 sound has a final consonant. 돌아올 것 같습니다. 돌아올 것 같습니다. 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올 것 같습니다. 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올 것 같습니다. Then let's use 을지도 모르다, 을지도 몰라요, which roughly means you don't know for sure whether it would happen or not. 저는 내년에 한국에 part is the same. The stem is 돌아오. Let's add a final l consonant, which indicates something undecided, and add don't know whether part, which is 지도 모르다 in Korean. You're going to add a formal honorific ending. Therefore, you just need the stem of the assistant verb. 모르 is the stem of the verb 모르다, which means not know. And the last letter of the stem of the assistant verb 모르 doesn't have a final consonant. Therefore, you add final b consonant and 니다. 돌아올지도 모릅니다. 모릅니다. 돌아올지도 모릅니다. 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올지도 모릅니다. Not sure whether I would come back next year, but that is a possibility. 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올지도 모릅니다. There's another assistant verb which you can use when you're 40 to 60% sure. What was that? Yes, 을 수도 있어요. 을 수도 있다. You add 도 sound to 을 수 있어요, which means you have an ability. 을 수도 있어요. The stem 돌아오, 돌아오, plus final 르 consonant and 수도 있 plus 습니다. 돌아올 수도 있습니다. 돌아올 수도 있습니다. 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올 수도 있습니다. When you are 100% sure, no matter whether it is true or not, when you think it is 100%, which assistant verb will you use? We've been using final 르 consonant or 을 sound and 거예요, right? In order to use formal honorifics, you turn 거 sound into 것 sound and 예요 into 입니다. So the stem 돌아오 plus final 르 consonant and 것입니다. 것입니다. 돌아올 것입니다. 입니다 is from the predicate 이다, right? 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올 것입니다. 것입니다 is actually pronounced 것입니다, right? 것입니다. The initial 그 consonant of the 것 sound turns into the double consonant 그 sound because of the final 르 consonant in the previous block. And the final 스 consonant moves up to the initial of the next block because the initial of the next block is the empty sound consonant 으. And the final b consonant of the 십 sound turns into m consonant because of the n consonant in the next block, right? 것입니다. 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 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올 것입니다. 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올 것입니다. In spoken Korean, you can use 겁니다 instead of 것입니다. It's from 거 sound plus 이 sound, which is the stem of 이다, plus final b consonant and 니다. So it's from 거입니다. 거입니다. But you don't have to know this since it is a colloquial form anyway. You don't have to know where it came from. Just remember, 겁니다 can be used for 것입니다 in spoken Korean. That's enough. And 겁니다 is actually pronounced 겁니다. 겁니다. The initial 그 consonant of the 겁 sound turns into the double consonant 그 because of the final 르 consonant in the formal block. And the final b consonant of the 겁 sound turns into m consonant because of the initial n consonant in the next block. 겁니다. 겁니다. 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올 겁니다. 저는 내년에 한국에 돌아올 겁니다. Okay, this is the end of lesson 8 part 1. You're gonna learn how to express I want to in the next video. 그럼 다음 비디오에서 만나요. 안녕히 계세요.